Hi there and welcome to the Alt.Narrative Podcast. I'm your empathetic and relentlessly curious host, Rich Harris. I've been a corporate marketer and sociology nerd for most of my 2 decades long career, observing trends and patterns in human behavior on the internet. On this podcast, we will explore the impact of the digital world on humanity and modern day social dynamics. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to check out the website at Alt.Narrative.com for more content. Thank you, everybody, for coming back to the Alt.Narrative Podcast. We have a really great episode today. One of my favorite people on the internet, Ginger Johnson. She's like a magician when it comes to humans connecting with humans, not just on a personal level, but definitely on a professional level too. The tactics and the energy that she brings to the table for teams that she is inspiring or talking to, or just people in her personal life and people that are just in her sphere in general. We get to feel the benefits of Ginger's like high-powered positive energy, and you can be in the lowest of lows, and she's the kind of person you want to bring into the room to lift you back up again, just because she has that gift. So anyway, without further ado, hey Ginger, welcome to the show, and why don't you tell us a little bit about, kind of what you do and what got you into this line of work?
Well, of course, it's great to be here, Rich.
All righty.
Let's get that out of the way, right?
Right.
Indeed. Clink, clink on the glasses. So I remember seeing this video on LinkedIn. Some guy I'd never seen before created this crazy fun video of himself promoting himself, marketing himself. Like, I got marketing right through my blood, just like you do, just like probably some of your fine listeners do, Rich. And I remember thinking, holy crap, that's my person. Who is that? I have to know them. So that's how I approach life. It happened to be you, which I know you knew that. So spoiler alert if you're Rich Harris, but if you're not, it was Rich. And so I look at life through that lens, Rich, of there are so many freaking amazing people on this planet, over 7 billion of them. Woo! So first lesson, don't ever think that you're stuck, because if you're stuck, that's your own problem. That's your own doing. Get yourself unstuck. Put some gravel underneath your wheels and get going, because there's so many amazing people. When I take a look at the world and I find great people like you, Rich, I'm super glad that it was reciprocal. I'm guessing when I called you, you're like, okay, so who are you? And look what's possible, right? I'm looking at the world, thinking of possibility, truly connection. The world is powered by connection. Our relationships, our resiliency, our health, our well-being, our profitability, our engagement, whatever it is, it's all powered by connection. I know you know that. That's definitely not just an alt. That should be your mainstream. That should be your aquifer that just feeds you constantly. And so when I'm looking at the world and when I get to serve great people like leadership cohorts and rooms full, whether they're online or offline, doesn't matter. You know this, Rich, that energy that you get comes from the energy you give. It's very cyclical. It's very synergistic, and human connection is just mind-blowingly amazing. So that's how I approach the world. Do I have days that are like, I think I'm gonna crawl back into bed? Yes, I do, once in a while, and I give myself that permission. So there's another takeaway: give yourself a damn permission slip, my friends, because if we force our way through it, we're not going to do our best. We're going to, we could have spent our time doing something else. And make no mistake, time is a spend or is an investment. When we do it right, you know this, Rich, when we do it right, it's an investment. It comes back. It's like the best possible boomerang. We send it out there like, I'm not quite sure how this is going to come back. It's going to come back though. When we spend it, we're like, oh shit, there's another day of my life I'm never going to get back. You get to choose.
Absolutely. And on that note, do you feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the work that you do is sales teams, marketing teams might bring you in to kind of help them, maybe find some new light or some new insight when it comes to hitting their mark. For marketing people, that's being able to resonate emotionally with their audiences. For salespeople, that's being able to make a human connection to the end point, which is, I want to sell some shit and make some money. So with that said, when you go out in the field and you talk to these teams, and what kind of feedback or challenge, what are some of the most common challenges that some of these teams have or that they're struggling with that they bring to you?
Yeah, so good, Rich. And here's the great deal. Whether it's emotional connection or selling shit, as you so eloquently put it, it's all the same thing. We all want to feel connection. We all crave human connection. Whatever that looks like for all of us, we all crave it. So it doesn't matter what your missive is chosen to be. So what does it look like? What are some of the common things? Well, for example, in the newsletter I sent out today, I based it on a conversation I actually had yesterday. A woman called me from a leadership cohort. I'm working with her boss and what I call her A team. There's 7 of them, high level, happens to be a school district. And she told me when she got on the phone, she says, Ginger, you really pissed me off today. And I'm really glad that was the right thing. I'm like, okay, tell me more. What's going on? And she said, what's happening is that we haven't been pushing ourselves. We haven't been growing in this direction of taking a look at what does it mean to really deeply and authentically connect with each other. You know, some of the questions I asked are very challenging. I was working with another cohort about a month ago, and I asked a question, and I in the moment, you probably have these times too. In the moment, you're like, oh yeah, this feels good. Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to get some backlash, but I'm going to keep going. So I asked a question that some people would interpret as intimate and not merely personal. I think there are layers to that. Mm-hmm. I believe in being highly personal in your connection efforts, because why bother? Otherwise, it's the spend and it's not the investment. If you're not willing to be truly vulnerable, which means putting yourself in an honest place of openness to say, hey, everybody, this is who I am. We're all standing naked together. This is who I am. If you're not willing to do that, you're never going to grow.
Right.
And it is uncomfortable. Comfort is a booby prize. One of my coaches told me that. I'm like, that is so freaking true. So this other person, somebody from this other cohort contacted me via email afterwards and said, Ginger, that question was really, we didn't feel it was appropriate. And I understand this person enough, I think, to realize that it's coming from a very sincere place. I thanked them, I said, thank you. Appreciate that. Duly noted. Will I ask that question again, Rich? Yes. Because what I learned from that response wasn't that was uncomfortable and it really got me thinking, or it really helped us or something. I thought, oh, this team is never going to get where they think they want to go, or where they can possibly even envision where they can go without answering a question. Do you want to know what the question was?
Tell me. The suspense is killing me.
Right. It's a question I often ask my fine husband and I, who I adore. We often ask this at dinner parties because it's just such a Kickstarter. I encourage everybody to use it. It's, tell us about your first kiss. And it's such a great question because everybody has one of these experiences. And those are the connection experiences that truly bind us together, that truly build empathy, sometimes even compassion. If we're not willing to answer that kind of question, we're scared of something. And I don't disrespect that. However, if we're not willing to answer that, then I'm not going to be your person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the like purest possible form of vulnerability that is something that unfortunately a lot of us in our own households, we're not encouraged to explore. We're not encouraged. We're always like, especially the older generations. I think this is changing for the better now, but this, like, you know, you're feeling stressed out or you're sad, whatever, this whole like toughen up bullshit, you know, it actually, by giving somebody that kind of advice, you're actually shutting them down and you're crushing their potential by alienating them and making them feel insecure about themselves. Instead, if you can get them to, you know, with questions like you just, you know, like you're bringing up there in some of your meetings and get-togethers, like, people need to be able to learn how to be more comfortable being vulnerable. Obviously, it needs to be appropriate for work. However, you know, once they're vulnerable, they will start growing in ways that they never even thought was possible, not just personally, but professionally. All of a sudden, like, your bonds with your colleagues get stronger. Your potential for more sales and better marketing relationships and partnerships actually get better, not because you're getting personal with everybody you meet, but because you're willing to be vulnerable and have real conversations and ultimately, even though you're trying to sell stuff or you're trying to market stuff, at the end of the day, we're still human beings. And if you can just have a little bit of that vulnerability with people that you meet and start working with or alongside or selling to, those relationships go a long way, and there's a lot larger yield, but it's definitely an uphill battle. And so I think people like you can come in, and obviously you're asking those questions and you're making people feel weird for a second, and people start asking themselves like, oh, I feel awkward. Well, why do I feel awkward? Well, it's her fault. Well, is it her fault? I don't know if it's her fault, and like, but at work, like, we never get asked those types of questions. We show up, open up an email, click some boxes, forward some shit, go into a meeting, talk some stuff, wishing you were gone out of that meeting like a half hour ago. And then you go home. And then a lot of people go home with this kind of empty feeling inside that, and COVID is definitely not helping that, but I'll get to that in a little bit here. Where they're like, why am I on this hamster wheel right now? And because it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel horrible, but time, like you said earlier, that's just one of those things. Like, it is more precious than anything else on the planet,
It is. We don't know how much we have. We don't know how little we have. And when people say, oh, well, life is short, like, actually, I'm going to go the other way. Life is long. So are you willing to give your life to things and purposes and pursuits that don't bring you some sort of joy or satisfaction? Or, I am glad we're going to be talking about the pandemic, because whenever you're listening to this, you can relate the pandemic to anything in your life. There are so many freaking gifts in this pandemic. Think of connection as your oxygen. Think of it as the fact that you do need to practice your breathing, and you do need to breathe in, and you need to breathe out, and you need to figure out, who do I inhale and exhale with, and who am I willing to be vulnerable with, just like you said. And it's comfort is not the goal. Competence is the goal. Confidence is the goal. And those are skills. That's the great thing, Rich. There's another gem. Like, if you are not feeling confident, if you're not feeling competent, exercise those damn muscles. You can do it. Everybody who wants to connect can. I put that in my connectivity canon. I know you have a copy of it. Like, take a look at what is really freaking important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Go after that with everything you've got. Yeah, you're going to skin your knees. Yeah, you're going to be gasping once in a while. At the same time, you're going to be doing that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So why not doing it in the direction with the people, laying yourself bare with those other people who you are willing to invest in? Because you and I both know this too. If you get in the room, whatever the room looks like to you, you can use this metaphorical or you get in that room and somebody asks you a question like I just posed earlier, and all of a sudden shoulders drop and people exhale and say, oh, finally, you're our people. Or they get tense or something. Like, okay, your lesson there is they're not your people. They're not bad people. Look for your people, find your people, because if you give them the opportunity to surprise you, they will.
Yep, for sure. And then the importance of finding your people, basically the tribe, and like, some people, they don't, I've talked to some people at work that are kind of trying to figure out, where they want to go next. They've been doing the same stuff for 20 years, but they just feel like empty and miserable inside and stuff. And I have found that a lot of people, including myself at times, maybe it's just because I'm really weird, but they don't even know who their tribe is yet. I know that my tribe is creatives. We all think from left field. We're all abstract and weird, and we wear our emotions on the outside of our bodies and our nerve endings, like, at all times. And so I know those are my people, but the challenge with artists is that we're also kind of like weird and wacky and have no attention span for anything, and we're abstract all the time and forgetful. So I need to find some more organized tribe members, I think, to align myself with. Right. Just a few, not too many. Yeah.
Right. They're looking for you too. And that, I think that hits on another thing is your people aren't like you. All your people aren't all like you. I remember years ago having a conversation with somebody, and I was talking, I had just gone and visited a friend outside of LA, and I was so excited, and I got to see her, and this was in the day of 35 mil. So, I've just dated myself, so be it. I brought my pictures back to my workmates. I'm like, yeah, this is Frances, my friend I was talking about. And they look and they're like, Ginger, she's old. And like, what the F are you talking about? Like, who cares what her age is? Like, she's brilliant. She saved my life more than once. And
yeah,
your people, like, shut your eyes and find your people. Open your mind and find your people, because there are people just like you're talking about, Rich. They're walking around feeling pretty numb of their own Novocaine induced being and status, and they're waiting for somebody like you.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, we have to be careful, and people that are trying to find their vulnerability, and their progress, they need to be careful too, that boundaries are important with other human beings. And we all have people in our lives that, whether they're at work, certainly at work sometimes, and or at home, or just, family members and friends in our sphere, like we haven't, like our generation, when I say our generation, I mean Gen X, right? So I'm going to start dating myself here, even though I don't consider myself old. I'm just feeling
Seasoned.
old. Seasoned, yeah. Wise, not so much. But like, we need to, I forget what I was getting at.
We need to respect people's boundaries, and
Yeah.
I would agree. That's where you're going with that. See, this is the value of connection, y'all. You start to get to know people. Like, I think he was going there. Yes, right. Light station. You're right. We need to be respectful. We need to be willing to say, "Hey, are you okay with this? This is where I'm going. Would you like to join me? Make an invite. Offer to make that connection. Offer them also to say no, thank you."
Yeah, and I think with the boundaries thing, the other part I was going to get at was like, you need to learn how to be strong enough to set boundaries that'll help your success without hurting others, but also make sure that others aren't able to zap all the energy and their trajectory or the momentum out of your trajectory, because we have those people in our jobs. We've had those people in our lives and in our families. And a lot of times people struggle with for emotional reasons or codependent reasons, which we all have a little bit of layer of inside of us, like how do they cut through that, set some boundaries so that they continue forward, being focused, accomplish their goals personally and professionally without being, like I said, tapped out by people who aren't willing to be vulnerable and aren't willing to progress in their own lives.
Right. And sometimes we need to be as direct. Oftentimes we're not direct enough. I believe that if we were more directly respectful, Rich, the world would be a better place, because there's nothing worse than being strung along or being ghosted or like, what the heck? I sent this person texts, emails, voicemails, whatever, and I'm not getting anything. It's better to say, like, if you were to say to me, look, Johnson, it's been a great ride. I'm done. Like, I would be surprised. I would probably be hurt. At the same time, like, okay, now I know. Like, just knowing. It's like, it's a diagnosis, right? Yeah. What's the diagnosis? What's the prescription for our connection? Is it going to be that, hey, we're going to grow, or this is no longer the thing? I can think of it. There's always one story that comes up in my head years ago, living somewhere else, started hanging out with somebody, and she's a great person, and we really got to know each other. What I learned in retrospect after I left and I totally ghosted her, shame on me, is that I wasn't willing to be direct and say, look, I've outgrown this relationship, because that feels awkward. It feels safer to walk away, but safe is not growth. Yeah. Safe is a cop-out. Safe is disrespectful to yourself, because now all these years later, I just need to write her a letter. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that stake in the ground right now. I'm going to write this woman a letter. If I can find her and say, hey, I'm sorry how I left it. I shouldn't have done that. Here's what I was feeling. I just want you to know.
Yeah, totally. And then that way, no matter how awkward that is, which is half the reason why people avoid those conversations, is just the awkwardness. You do that, and all of a sudden you have all this like levity in your life that you didn't even know was possible. And like you cut those people off, and like you can totally do that diplomatically. And if they really cared about you, and if they also had their own boundaries and were somewhat stable, they would actually respect you more for handling it that way, because you're not wasting their time. You're being upfront with them. And to me, I was raised to just believe super strongly in trustworthiness and loyalty at all costs, but not loyal to those that don't have your best interests at heart, and they're only just thinking about themselves. And so we're, unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, like as far as the masses are concerned, culturally, we're not encouraged to take care of ourselves like that. We're not encouraged to set boundaries. We're encouraged to put up with a bunch of bullshit that hurts people and ourselves, and just let it go on and perpetuate it, because this is the way of life, and we're human beings, and we just do this. And I can't subscribe to that stuff. And I think one of the reasons why, when you first reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I was like, who is this person who's because I'm a cynical asshole, so when people approach me and I don't know what their angle is, immediately I'm like, who is this? But I went and checked out your website. I did my typical OCD, background social media check just to see like what your content
I'm not
was
wanted
like.
in any states, am I?
You're only banned in 4 states, yeah, in 3 countries.
Oh,
Yeah.
only 4. It's down. Okay, thanks.
But I saw what you were about. I'm like, immediately, I'm like, I could totally invite this person to the barbecue with a whole bunch of people I've known forever and not even worry about it. And that usually to me, like the barbecue is like the barometer, the figurative barbecue. So it's like, if I'm willing to have you over to my house just based on some content I saw about you online,
Thanks.
I have a pretty good feeling about you, and so I was really happy that we connected and I didn't even know connecting to people was an industry in and of itself until I saw you online. I'm like, she keeps saying connect this and connect that and human connection. What is this? I haven't been exposed to this before as an industry. I've had these conversations, but like I didn't know that there were I have never met personally people out there that actually they get a rush from just helping others, connect with others basically, and so that was really, really awesome to me to see,
Well, that's why you're listening to this alt podcast, y'all. This is what it's about. Like, find out alternatives, find out different avenues, go down cul-de-sac, go down the alleys of life. And when you talk about connection, there is a whole undercurrent. And to be super effing crystal clear, connection is not networking. That's entirely different. We'll do that on another episode, but don't you dare call it networking. I think of a couple other great people who if you want to learn about connection, Vivek Murthy, former Surgeon General, blah, 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 I need a Jameson. Former Surgeon General wrote a great book called Together. Highly recommend it. Marissa King, Social Chemistry. It's the book I'm reading right now. I love it. It's phenomenal. And Priya Parker, The Art of Gathering. Those are all about connection. So if you want more, if you get the Canon from me, great. I'm going to love you forever. It's useful. There's so many more people along your lines of, you didn't even know it was an industry. There's another gem, I'd say, Rich, in that what you choose to invest your life in is not just, quote, what you do. And I'm holding up air quotes if you're listening to this. What you do really isn't as important as who you are and why you're being the person, because why you're being the person and what you're manifesting as that person is your impact in life. I know you know that. I know that's why you don't suffer fools. I know that's why you really want to do work that matters, because work, when you love it, is a great word.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're getting to also was just the importance of intent. Everything is about intent to me. So somebody can go out in the world and be really nice to people, but what's your intention?
Right.
I've seen scenarios in my small town where somebody was claiming to try to do good by the community, and with their content they were, but I know who they are as a person, and I know it's bullshit. And so for me, that was the other thing my dad taught me was just intent. Pay very close attention to people's intentions. Right. And usually when you can see their intent fairly clearly and it's a positive one, you can almost always be friends with that person right away. Yeah. And so I saw your intent in your content right away. I was like, she legit gives a shit about people.
Give a shit. There's a hashtag. Let's start that one.
There's a new song. Yeah, there's a parody of a once popular song.
Needs to write about that one, right?
How could I squish too legit to not give a shit into enough, or the smallest amount of syllables possible? Yeah.
I'd like to buy an E for 500.
I'm not wearing any hammer pants though if we do that one, so I'm just letting you know now.
We're not quitting.
Nope. Nobody wants to see Rich dance, believe me. That's a horrific situation.
I do at the barbecue.
At the barbecue, that'd be okay after a couple shots. Sure, I could probably hang with that. Right. Yeah. So let's get to the the human connection, based on what your book Connectivity Canon says, as well as just what you and I know as people. We know that being in the same space, whether you're super huggy or not, but just being in the same space and having those conversations and being able to feel and see tones and inflections in people's voices and their eyeballs and like all that stuff, that's what reminds us that we're part of this like larger species in this like kind of humanitarian hive or unit, if you will. So it's you cannot replace that with technology. We know that it's otherwise, babies would be born in like little robotic bubbles based out of like gene splicing and they'd be cloned and, whatever. But like with the pandemic, we already are aware of some of the really horrible effects that it's had on the human psyche for people personally, professionally, employed, unemployed, doesn't matter. There's this starvation that I noticed for me was starting to set in, and that it was a starvation for that human connection with other people. At first I was like, yeah, we're shelter in place, but I don't really like to go out that much anymore anyway, so whatever. And so then we all just kind of did that. And then toward the last few weeks, my wife and I have been trying to safely get together with people in person again for the first time in like over a year and a half. And I didn't realize how starved I was for that. And I felt like invigorated, even if we didn't do anything amazing. It was just like having them come to my house. They gave me a hug. I cooked some food. We put it on their plate. We clanked glasses together and laughed and just didn't talk about anything that mattered. But what mattered most was that we were there talking and we were together. So with COVID, what have been some of the things, like maybe some newer challenges that you've seen or some positive ways to deal with, this dynamic we're dealing with right now, especially in your space?
Yeah, so good, Rich. There's so much to it. Wow, so many avenues. The first thing I would say is, even well before the pandemic, the American Psychological Association had shared with us that there was already an epidemic of loneliness and disconnect. So don't be depressed by that. Actually be encouraged by that, because the great thing about it, Rich, is that we are all the solution. If you're listening to this right now, no matter when you're listening to this, you are part of the solution. Maybe it's your own solution. Maybe it's for somebody else. Maybe it's somebody who lives across the hall, down the street, across the country, across the globe. Doesn't matter. What the pandemic has really brought full frontal is that we do truly need each other. We don't just want other people of our species, other animals of our species around. We truly crave it. The energy, the sensory that you're talking about when you talk about nothing that matters. And actually that's the stuff we need to be talking about right now. Let's just talk about, there's weeds in my front yard, or my tire went flat, or, whatever it is. The whole idea of conversation is that conversation connects us. So talk about what you want to talk about. Find out what other people want to talk about. So some of we'll go with the downsides and we'll go with the upsides. The downside is that we're reliant on technology. And actually, we're so fucking lucky. We at least have this, right? The Jetsons kind of helped us think about what would that look like that we had these conversations live. Well, now we're doing it all the time. So focus not on the fact that we can't hug. In fact, there's the lesson. Don't focus on what you can't have. Focus on what you can have.
Right.
So yeah, it'd be great to clink glasses. It'd be great to arm wrestle or go, do whatever together, have the barbecue, be in person. Don't lament it. Acknowledge it. Be aware of it. We're all very aware of it. Acknowledge it and say, okay, right now, this is what it is to be safe. This is what it is to frankly be responsible. If you have a kickback response on that, I lovingly support you to rethink, because the only way we're going to get out of this is to be together and aligned on what keeps us safe. And so pay attention to the science, pay attention to that. As we record this today, I'm traveling cross country, which Rich, and it's really fascinating to see how are people connecting in different geographic areas of the United States of America. And like, some of it scares the shit out of me, and some of it makes me feel more comfortable. I'm wearing a mask wherever I go. I don't care what it is. I come most recently from the great state of Oregon. Huge props to my governor for saying, look, this is what we know. So circling around to, how do we feed that hunger for connection? How do we mitigate the starvation, as you called it? What we want to do is use the phone a lot more. So get off screen. Seriously, tune in a lot more with your ears and what you get from that. When we remove one sense, the other ones really step up. So take advantage of the phone. The phone's been around for a long time. There's a reason it's powerful. Tap into what you hear. I found myself, Rich, actually closing my eyes when I'm talking with people sometimes, because that gives me a different level. This as a sound engineer, as a producer, when you shut your eyes, you literally remove that distraction so you can listen better. Ask more questions. There's the next thing. Connectors, one of the key connector traits is to be curious and be interested. Don't focus on being interesting. Nobody cares about you unless they know that you care about them first. And it doesn't matter. You're not trying to sell, you're trying to serve. You're not trying to talk, you're trying to listen. Focus on those things. Those things are usually in rare supply anyway. What an opportunity to boost our listening skills. In fact, I'll throw another resource, juliantreasure.com. He's phenomenal. He's a sound and listening expert. He helps you. His book, How to Be Heard, is fantastic. He's got 4 TED Talks. So focus on what we can have. Another one, and then we can migrate to a different question if you want, Rich, is the language of connection is really a lot of what I'm teaching right now and what I teach in overall. But the language of connection is super important. So for example, use and instead of but. Use new now, current reality. Don't use normal, back to, return. That's just a mind fuck. And I know I can say that on your show. So don't mess with yourself and hope for something that you don't know when it's going to happen. You put it off, you get stressed out because you keep holding your breath. Don't do that. Keep breathing with what we have and look at what's possible in a wise way. You can still do a lot. I mean, we can still do this. Yeah, I can't wait for the day I get to come to your barbecue, Rich. And we know it's coming. So we have to be patient. Be that little kid at Christmas or at your birthday. The present is there. Focus on your presence, and the present will come with patience. And that's ironic from somebody like me who was like incredibly impatient. And I'm not going to be stupid about it. I'm going to try to be as best I can in this moment as a person I can be to still serve, to go forth, to connect, and look at different creative ways. I'm paying attention. Some of my best colleagues, like Tia Graham, a happiness expert, man, I'm learning something from her every day. I'm tuning into people like you and the people you connect me with. And I think, okay, what's the one thing I can learn from them? And I keep going. Just don't give up. Go to bed. Know that when that big orange ball gets up in the sky every day, you have a new opportunity. Reach out to somebody different, somebody new, somebody you haven't heard from in a long time, because dimes to donuts, they are going to be thrilled to hear from you. That's a day lifter right there. The second you start having your own pity party, pause and say, you know what? I haven't talked to Rich in a year and a half, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Reach out to them. What a gift. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. You don't know where to start, but all of a sudden it's 50 minutes later or 5 minutes later, you're like, holy shit, this is great. I'm so glad you called.
Totally. I've been on that note. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I felt compelled. Like when I would have people that start texting me, I'll just call them.
Yes.
And it like shocks the shit out of them.
Yes.
They're like, whoa, is everything okay? What's going on? I'm like, what do you mean, is it okay? You texted me and said, hey man, how's it going? And so I'm calling you and I'm talking to you with my vocal cords, and I'm going to tell you how it's going. And you can hear my voice and you can hear emotions in it, you know, when it applies. And like, this is just, I'm a social media marketer by trade and a content creator and strategist. So I spend my entire like work life just creating things and doing digital things and being separated from other human beings by screens and tools and instruments and camera lenses and stuff. And it's like, now have had it. So if I have an opportunity to just like call somebody, and if they say, hey man, I can't talk right now, I never have an issue with it, because I know that I called them without checking first. But more often than not, people are kind of pleasantly surprised. They're like, dude, thanks for calling me yesterday, man. It was nice to hear your voice. And, you know, So
yes. And, you know, pro tip on that, I'm so glad you're promoting this, Rich. Pro tip on that is like, if you call me like, hey, G, I saw you just texted. Like, do you got 5 minutes? Like, hell yeah, I got 5 hours. What do you want to talk about? Or I say, I really want to talk. How about tomorrow? How about whatever? Give them that why in the road where they can say, yes, I'd love to, and I can do it now, or not right now. Let's do it this time.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
That helps sales. That helps marketing. That helps any business aspect too, by the way, because you're showing them you want to really talk with them. You want to really find out what's going on, and you respect their time.
Exactly. And if you let them know, just letting somebody know a status of your availability, what's going on, whatever, whether it's, you know, HR departments not getting back to people that had applied, you know, and there's like all kinds of things that are related to the pandemic right now. Like leaving human beings hanging is just, It's the worst. It's one of the worst traits that has bubbled up as kind of like a new norm, or like the ghosting thing. It shouldn't be this popular, this well known of a meme.
Right,
Like
right,
ghosting
right,
is really shitty. Like I would much rather somebody come up to me and go, "Hey, I was supposed to call you and I didn't because I don't like you." And I go, "All right,
right,
well, I can deal with that information, and you're not the first person to say that to
right,
me. But
right,
like, at least I know what's up, and you're giving me the respect of the truth and the status." And it's
right.
like one of the things I've tried to do a lot better. It's been a character flaw of mine because of a lot of like ADHD related symptoms, but follow through and
Yes,
making sure if I tell somebody that I'm going to do something, that I go do it, or I communicate with them that, sorry, I committed to this. I cannot do it now. And here's why. And sometimes they're disappointed, and sometimes they freak out, and sometimes they're totally cool with it and they totally understand, but like
right,
the fact that I gave them
right,
that respect, like it can go a really long way, and so
right.
just following up and, like you said, give them that why in the road, to be able to stay in communication with you. And I'm surprised at how surprised people are when people want to talk to them for real. I'm seeing it all the time. They're like
Yes,
shocked out of their mind, and I don't know if it's COVID is like, its existence has put such a lull and a doldrum on our psyches that we're not even aware of right now. But
yeah,
man,
yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, if you want more emails, make less phone calls. However, if you want less emails, if you don't want to be drowning in all that, make more phone calls. You're going to get to it faster, better interpretation, nuance, all those things that we're craving in person. They're actually more effective on the phone. Of course, email is just fraught with misinterpretation opportunities. So is
Yeah,
text, for that matter.
yeah,
Don't think it's convenient if it's not effective.
right, exactly. I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says that.
All
Actually,
right, we're in business. We got some tchotchke stuff
I'll
to let
send you.
you
Yeah,
share about.
right. How many tchotchke ideas do we have now? About
That's right. Full
1.6
source.
million.
Yeah, visit legit.com.
Right. So hey, as far as what you have going on next, you're on the road right now, you're setting up a new chapter of your life, but at the same time, you have a current chapter that's kind of going in parallel that is exploding. People are wanting to hear more from Ginger, and they want to know what you got going on and how you can help them and kind of bridge some of those conversational gaps and stuff now. So maybe just let everybody know kind of what you got going on next. You have your book, which is called the Connectivity Canon, and that came out in 2018.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm
So
overdue
what?
to write my next one.
So working on a new book, hopefully, and then
Yes.
what else do you kind of got coming up on the horizon that maybe people should know more about?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Rich. So, yeah, I need to bust my chops on my next book. It's going to be based on my 4-part growth model: align, activate, excel, appreciate, and aspire. You can subscribe gingerjohnson.com/subscribe for newsletter. I only put out useful material. Today I put one out that was based on where I started with the opening story when we started. Speaking with, it's never to or at, great groups, audiences, associations are a sweet spot, B Corps are a sweet spot, leaders in an educational progressive mindset. It's all mindset. You know this, Rich. It's all mindset. Industry is less important. However, there's some industries that really, strum my chords. So the speaking, the working with the teams who want to be higher performers. And what
Hmm.
does that mean? It's not just some glib like, oh, let's sign up for something online, and I won't mention a name because there's no denigration here, but taking a look at what is your team doing right now. Are you a sales leader? Are you a director? Are you a VP? Are you helping run an organization of any size, and you realize that your team wants to come together? I'm not a fixer. I am somebody who the people who get the most out of me, not about me, the people who get the most out of what I offer, my energy, my enthusiasm, yeah, that's great. And the people who use the most from what I can give them are the people who want it. So if you're one of those people and you are leading yourself, your team, whatever, you want some personal development, professional development programming, that's in my wheelhouse. You want a speaker who's really going to kick some butt, give people useful tools, tactics. They're going to walk away like, holy buckets, I have so much now. Don't worry, I help you mitigate that. Choose one thing at a time. It's really this constant evolution. You know this, you're that same way, Rich, in that here we are right now. You don't step in the same river twice, as somebody I know used to say. You just don't. Whether it's the Clark Fork behind me or the little rivulet behind your house, the way to approach life and really connect with it is focus on, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? When I'm on my deathbed, I want to say, damn, that was a great ride. Don't put up for anything less for yourself. I'm not talking about the struggle. And by the way, it's not glorious, it's exhausting. So figure out a way to put your effort forward that is fulfilling, that is at least you go to bed at night tired and it's honest and it's going in the right direction. So it's the speaking, the pro development with teams, the dinner party experience, which we haven't talked about at all. But the dinner party experience is really the equalization. And I use that word very cautiously, Rich, because equal is not even in Mother Nature's vernacular. And she's one hell of an engineer. To equalize by sitting at the table at the barbecue, we really can all come together. And so I offer dinner party experiences, both for teams, small capacity, as well as a performance. So if you're with a company and you want something truly unique, online and in person, I translate well online. If you still want all this energy online, I'll give you any references to my clients. Like, yeah, she still brought it all. Cause I do. Like, what, why else show up, Rich? Like, why would you show up if you're not going to give all of it? Not everybody's going to want all of it. That's okay. You keep bringing it. So it's those components. That's really where I'm focused on developing. So I can be world-class. So my clients get world-class, and that they can feel truly empowered and re-energized, reset, refresh, revitalize, so they can connect and reconnect, beat that starvation back with a broom, and go forth and do what they love to be and do the best work they can do.
Awesome. Well, amen to that. Seriously. And the angels descended.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The clouds just parted. Hi.
Well, hey, thanks again for being on the show. And I look forward to not only writing some more music for you, but also having you back for kind of a follow on after you guys get settled in your new spot and everything. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. You're amazing. Love everything you're doing. I can't wait for that barbecue together. Thank you so much.
That wraps it up for today's Alt.Narrative podcast episode. Thank you for listening, and please check us out online at altnarrative.com for more content.